Rolling. Welcome to the latest edition of the Hudson County Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Haig, and don't forget, as always, the Hudson County Sports Podcast is brought to you by the great people at Stand Sports Center, located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken. The telephone number there is 201-798-4466. And with me today is probably the first heavily recruited quarterback from St. Peter's Prep, and at that time he was probably the one of the most sought after run-pass quarterbacks in the entire country at that time. He then went from St. Peter's Prep, where he had a very, very good 2-year career at Nebraska, where he was setting all kinds of passing records there, but that's because they also didn't throw the ball before he got there. But at that time he was setting passing records left and right at Nebraska. He then transferred from Nebraska and finished up his playing career at the University of North Carolina, where he ended up, his last position he played was at wide receiver. But then soon after that, he started to pursue a coaching career where he's been all over the place at the University of Buffalo. He was at Liberty University. He was at Bethune-Cookman for a while. And then just recently now, for the last 3 years, I take it back. This is his second season. He has been the wide receivers coach at Boston College, where they have one of the best passing offenses in the country. And it is my good friend, Joe Dailey. Joe, how are you doing today, pal?
Jim, I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
I'm glad to have you. You're a great guest. So, all right, let's turn back the clock a little bit, Joe. And it's not that long ago, because you're still a young man. But you grew up in Freehold. And what was that like to be growing up at Freehold at that time? And did you play all sports growing up in Freehold?
Yeah, I was very fortunate to be raised in Freehold, New Jersey. You know, it's the hometown of Bruce Springsteen. So us Freeholders, have a certain amount of pride in ourselves because we're from the same hometown as Bruce. But growing up in Freehold was awesome. We had phenomenal youth league sports programs, anywhere from soccer, football, baseball, basketball, hockey, you name it, we had it there. And just the opportunity to participate in those sports programs changed my life and a number of other people's lives. The coaches that we had there, the quality instruction, just the pride that people took in educating young boys and girls to play sports was phenomenal. And so, man, just so thankful and appreciative of that opportunity to be raised in that area of the state and have played with some really, really good players and having some great coaches.
Okay. Now, did you, as a young kid, say 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, did you play all 3 sports?
Yeah, I was a football, baseball, basketball guy. I knew that athletics was going to be my ticket out of New Jersey. If I wanted to go and pursue anything professionally, it was going to be through sports. And so sports is very serious fun to me back then, still is today. I always had this, understanding that if I took my preparation serious, that I was going to have a lot of fun and have a lot of success. And so I played as many sports as I could, but those 3 were my primary sports.
Okay. And so now, growing up, and when the time came to make the decision to go to high school, first of all, if you can, talk a little bit about your childhood background. And from what I remember, Joe, you came from a single-parent household, right? It was just your mom?
Yeah, correct. And it came from very humble means, and I had an opportunity to grow up alongside Rich Hansen Jr.
Oh, don't say that word.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's Richie, but he's not Junior. Yeah. Because technically, the old man would be Junior, and he don't want that title either. So, but you were good friends with Richie growing up as a kid, right?
Yes, Little Rich and I were best friends, brothers, obviously now, but his father and his mom, they kind of took me underneath their wing, when I was about 10, 11 years old, and helped raise me.
And was your father in the picture at all, Joe?
My biological father was around. He just wasn't really actively involved in my life.
Okay.
My mom worked her tail off to support us. But like,
How many brothers and sisters?
Help, and she was awesome about Rich Hansen and his wife Elise.
Yep.
Helping where they could, and I'm just thankful. And
How many brothers and sisters did you have, Joe?
I have one full sister. She's a younger gal.
Okay.
And then I got 8 other half brothers and sisters.
8?
They're scattered all over the place.
8 others? 8.
Oh yeah.
Wow. And they all from the same mother?
No.
Oh, okay. Thank God, because then we'd have to put her in the automatic Hall of Fame, having given birth to 9 kids.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. So, was it difficult growing up in a single-parent household? Was it, or did your mother keep a strict hand on you and make sure that you traveled the straight and narrow?
No, I wouldn't say it was difficult. I think my mom did a phenomenal job of keeping my sister and I in line. She didn't tolerate very much. Expected great results, on the playing field and in the classroom. But as a single parent, you can't cover everything.
Right.
And I imagine that I was probably a knucklehead and got into my fair share of trouble, and she probably wasn't always able to handle me, and so that's where Coach Hansen came into play. And
all right. So, how old were you when you first met Richie? Was that like, say, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, somewhere around there?
Yeah, probably 7 or 8 years old, right around that second grade time frame.
Okay.
And what was cool about that whole aspect was he was also like the quarterback coach, the quarterback guru at that time. And so he would come to our Pop Warner practices. He would grab all the quarterbacks at all levels, and he'd all take us through quarterback like drill instruction. So I learned quarterback play from Rich Hansen since I was 7 years old.
Wow.
8 years old.
Okay. And did he make a major impact on you at a very young age? Did you say, "Wow, this is somebody who I admire and would love to be able to get a chance to play for someday"?
Oh yes, I saw his passion for helping young people, and specifically in my life, I think he probably saw something in me that may have been similar to what he had in his own life.
Absolutely, very, very parallel, except for the position. Where you were a skill player, and he wouldn't know what a skill player was if it bit him, but he basically, from the ages of 10, 11 on, all he used to do was run around the field and hit people, so, but very, very similar backgrounds, and I guess maybe that's why the two of you got along so well, is that you had very, very familiar family backgrounds, so maybe that helped.
And he's very demanding. I think there's one thing about Big Rich is if he asks you to do something, he believes that you're capable of achieving the task, and whether you believe you can or not, if he asks you, then you know that you're capable of doing so. Okay. And everything he would ask of me, I would go above and beyond to get done because I knew it would please him, and I knew that if he asked me to do it, it was going to be important in my life.
Okay. So I guess it's safe to say, being that close to the family like you were, and as close as you were to him, he was a major father figure for you, correct?
Oh yes. Oh yes. He was all that and some.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Okay. So then when the time came to pick a high school, there was no question where you were going, right? There wasn't even a doubt you were going to go to St. Peter's Prep to play for him, right?
Yeah, no question. There was only one person I wanted to play high school football for.
Okay.
That was Rich Hansen. I mean, at that time, there was no one else doing it like he was doing it at such a high level, helping develop young men go on to be productive people on the playing field and then in life. I mean, God knows how many guys have come through his program that probably have very similar stories, and had they not come in contact with him, they may not be where they are today. That's
a good point. And who knows where they might have ended up. So, all right. So now you'd make the decision to go to Prep, and obviously he made things easy for you, even though that's a 70-mile drive every day from Freehold to Jersey City. It must have been a good learning experience that you took that hour there and an hour home just, soaking in everything you can, not only learning from him, but also getting a chance to be in the car every day with your good friend Richie. And that must have been almost like a classroom session every time you got in the car and made the trip back home on the Parkway.
No doubt about it. Every day, we're going to learn some life lessons. You can bet your bottom dollar on that one. Every single day, we were going to get something related to life, something related to sports, something related to education, politics. We were always in his classroom because so many things would cross his desk, and he'd be on his cell phone. At that time, it was probably a Nokia.
Yep.
So he was constantly dealing with things, and we just happened to be, in the car with him as those things would be going on, and we just were constantly learning so many different things. So I was privileged to have the guy that was the quarterback coach be the head coach and drive with him every single day. And so it was just constant, educating on how to play the position, on what you're looking for. I mean, there's so many things that really, I can't think of anyone else could be able to educate somebody like that, because every day for 4 years, you were in the car for 2 hours just getting a real deal of education on life. I'm thankful and appreciative to have had that opportunity.
Okay. All right. Give me one. I know you probably got thousands, but give me one story that would be pretty amusing for our listeners about those trips back and forth. And was there say ever a time where he was angry at you after, say, a bad performance or a bad practice or whatever, and then you said to yourself, "Oh God, I got to stay in the car for him all the way, for the next hour." Most people, when they get away from their coach, they get in the bus, they go home, and they get to stay away from their coach for the next 8 hours. You didn't have that opportunity. You had to worry about going home with him. And was there ever a time where the two of you were at each other's odds with each other, and you still had to talk to him on the way home? Was there anything at all that either football related or life related that you said, "Oh God, I got to get in the car and go home with him"?
Oh man, I can think of a number of them. I think one of them that just stands out the most, and I even use it with my players today, was I think we had homecoming. We were at Caven Point. I think we were playing Dickinson.
Okay.
And
you know how much those games meant to him, even though even though I think he only lost once to Dickinson in his life. You know how much those games meant to him. So.
Oh yeah, those games, Hudson County games in that era. Now they were still knockdown dragouts.
Yeah.
St. Peter's. Now those weren't no guaranteed wins, man. The Hudson County was stacked.
Yep.
With athletes. I mean, really good athletes and the coaches. I mean, they were phenomenal. Heck, they're all spread out over the state now, but those guys at one point were all in Hudson County competing against each other. So at that point, it was very, very, very competitive. But I remember playing against Dickinson that homecoming night, and I remember there was going to be somebody like special in attendance, someone I had like a crush on apparently.
Uh-oh.
And I was trying to go above and beyond to impress this young lady.
Okay.
I mean, I was just doing everything that I was not coached to do just to make a player too.
Oh no. Okay.
And it just was not working out in my favor at all. And he grabbed me. I mean, I threw like a couple silly picks and just did some outlandish things. And he grabbed me on the side and said, "Son, I don't know what's going on in your head right now. I don't know why you're distracted, but I can't put you in position to make any of these throws or call these plays because you're not doing what I'm coaching you to do. And because of that, we are going to run this football the rest of this game. And
wow.
Up on your hands because you can't do what you're coached to do."
Wow.
And I've never been spoken like that before because I was always the best athlete and the ball was always going to be in my hands.
Yep.
And I was going to make plays regardless, and he took it out of my hands, but he taught me a lesson right then and there that it's not about you and what you're trying to achieve, separate from what we got going on here. And sure enough, he did exactly what he said he was going to do. Until about the fourth quarter, he was like, "All right."
When he needed you.
Yeah, he said, "You learned your lesson, Joe?" I said, "Yes, sir." He's like, "Go in there and do it." All right. And next thing you know, we got Adam San Miguel running down the sideline on a go route. and I just let that thing rip. He catches his stride, makes a guy miss, we score, and it all kind of returns, to normal. But the ride home that night was interesting because then he was like, we got to talk. We got to tell him what the hell was going on. And I just kind of laid it all out there. And he's like, dude, you can't get distracted by things that have nothing to do with the game. You just play your game, and the plays will come your way if you play your game. But if you're trying to do something for someone else, and it doesn't really pertain to what we're trying to get done, we're not going to have any success. And I can't tell you how many times things of that nature come up in players' lives today, where they're just trying to make plays that aren't there because they're distracted by something else that takes them away from their routine. So my own personal life lesson on distractions, they show up today in today's sports realms. So thankful and appreciative of that opportunity to go through that. It sucked at the time, but I learned a lot of hard lesson, and it was an eternal lesson.
Joe, was she worth it?
No, she wasn't.
Yeah, I figured as much. Okay.
She's a nice gal and all, but just wasn't worth the ass chewing that I got.
Yeah, no. And knowing Hanson as well as I do, he's not the type of guy that let it die after, say, you got ridden on once or twice. No way. He would be hammering that point over and over again. So that was, it probably was like saying, oh God, will he please stop already with this, so.
Oh my gosh. Well, here's the issue though, right? So of the 4 or 5 times I tried to make some craziness happen, I was 1 of 5. Right? It was like 4th down and 8, and we were going to punt, and I was the punter, and I received the snap, and I look up and no one's rushing me. So instead of punting, I just take the ball, tuck it away, and I just run down the middle of the field, and I get to the returner, I make him miss, and I score a touchdown.
On a fake punt?
Yeah, it was a
wow.
Fake, it wasn't called.
And it wasn't called. Oh, forget about it.
Yeah, so I scored on him like, oh, here we go. I'm going to be able to do this every time I touch the ball. And I was sadly wrong, sadly mistaken.
He probably took the ball out of your hands at least for the next one series at least. You had to pay the price, right? Probably.
Oh, no, it went for 2 quarters.
Oh, 2 quarters?
The second quarter and the third quarter, he was like, you're handing the football off, playing the game my way.
Okay. That's it. It's either his way or the highway. It's one or the other. Yeah. You learn the hard way. All right, but how much did you learn a lot about the game of football from being with Coach Hanson and that incredible coaching staff? And was Nascimento your offensive coordinator, or was it somebody else at that time?
No, it was Andriotis at that time.
Oh, Andriotis. Okay.
Yeah. Big Andrew.
Yep.
We were pro style. We were kind of a Nebraska system, actually.
Yeah.
We were an I-back team. We ran some option. We ran the outside zone, ran the power, ran the counter, and then we run play actions and boots. And that's really what we did. Heck, really similar to what we do here now.
Okay.
In college. But, yeah, man, that staff, they stayed on forever, and then guys kind of skedaddled and went on in their own careers as head coaches. But those guys were, they meant everything to us because they really, really, they poured so much into us professionally. That was their passion to help us become better men than we were when we showed up on those doorsteps, and help us develop our athletic capabilities, our skill sets. Yep,
and that was a great high school coaching staff. I mean, that was just one after another. And the one good thing about Hanson, and boy, if I'm going to sing his praises for an hour, his head's going to get even more inflated than it is now, and it's a huge head to begin with. But the one thing he did very, very well is he delegated authority tremendously, and he had a really good coaching staff that he relied upon a lot of people, including people that then went on after they left prep, became head coaches of their own right, and so he did a very good job at delegating authority, and that was a really good coaching staff that you got the chance to work with back then, correct?
Oh, yes. He was a leader of men.
Yep.
And he had a very unique way of capturing the hearts and minds of young men and everyone else after that, just because of his intensity, his passion. He was so driven in helping people and places become, to become their potential, what they could be, capable of maxing out. That was his drive, and he did that. He surrounded his program with great people.
Yep. And people he could rely on, and people that he knew that that were molders of men themselves. So he knew that. I don't think he knew at that time that they were potential to be head coaches of their own right, but he had people that he could rely on tremendously, and that had to help all of you guys at that time just to become better football players and, more importantly, better men. Right?
Certainly, no doubt about it.
Okay. All right. So now. It started a little bit when you were a sophomore in high school, but by the time you were a junior, it exploded. And I'm talking about the attention that you received as being a big time college prospect and a recruit. And what was that first like when you started to get letters and phone calls, and a lot of them probably circumvented Hanson tremendously and called you on their own, but most of everything that was in terms of recruiting had to go through Hanson. And how much was it I guess awe-inspiring? Was it unbelievable? Like you were saying, it's like, wow, all these coaches are calling me. And was there one coach that stands out back in your recruiting when you were being recruited that stood out in your mind and you said, oh my God, did he really? Is that really who I thought it was? And so talk a little bit about first the recruiting aspect itself, and what was that like? Was it almost too awesome for words? That you had all these people calling you and contacting you and sending you letters?
Oh yeah, it was amazing because Coach Hanson had said, "Hey, listen, if you do X, Y, and Z, you do it at the highest level that you're capable of doing so, and you're consistent doing this. I promise you there will be college recruiters in my office beating down my door to offer you a scholarship, and you're going to have really, really hard decisions to make." And sure enough, all that came to fruition. Everything that he said, if I did it, it would occur.
Okay.
And sure enough, it did.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. At the time, it was like, oh my gosh, all these schools are calling and asking. They're really interested in me, and how do I choose? And it was exactly how he said it was. So that was really, really cool because I remember being a 16-year-old kid just being like, how is this even possible right now?
Right.
And then
a wise Alec from Freehold getting all these college coaches all over the place calling you and contacting you must have blown you away, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Especially someone who doesn't come very much, and someone's offering you a $100,000 scholarship a year.
Yeah, but you didn't know what the price tag was back then, right? You know now, but you didn't know what that was back then. You were just talking about, wow, this is Notre Dame calling me. This is Penn State calling me, like that type of thing. And was there one Joe that stands out in your mind going back that you said, oh my God, that's so and so who just called me and contacted me? Was there one that stood out in your mind that blew you away that you were talking to?
No, because it was crazy because I talked to so many people.
Yep. Well, but I say go back to when you were a kid. Did you have a favorite college football team? And did you ever dream of saying, oh boy, I'd love to be able to play for that school or play for whatever? So was there anybody?
I can't say any one in particular. I love Nebraska because they were an option football team.
Okay.
At one point, I was committed to Syracuse. They were an option football
That's right. You were first verbally committed to Syracuse, right?
Yeah. It was George Dailey that recruited me, and he was a character now.
Yes, indeed.
One of the best online coaches to ever really don that title, and very, very commanding and demanding. And his recruitment of me was awesome just because he was very just candid and straightforward, and he let me know exactly what their plans were for me and how he was going to make me, an all-Big East quarterback and an All-American. I mean, he had laid it out for me, him and Paul Pasqualoni, and I thought those guys did one of the better jobs of recruiting me. Obviously, I committed to them, but I wanted to be committed later on in December of my senior year. But man, there's
well, that was that was because Pasqualoni was fired at that time, or?
No. At that time, when I went on my visit, I didn't have a really good vibe for the team, and just, I wanted to win a national championship. I wanted to be developed and coached, to the best of my ability.
Okay.
And at that time, Nebraska, I don't know if they didn't have a commitment yet, and they really, honed in on looking at me and possibility of getting me to come there. And I went on my visit there and fell in love with it. Frank Solich was a phenomenal leader of men themselves, and then
no nicer human being on the planet.
Turner Gill, an African American quarterback coach, and at that time that was unheard of.
Was he the coach, or is he still playing then? No, he was the quarterback coach, right?
He was the quarterback coach at the time.
Yeah.
He just had Heisman Trophy winner Aaron Crouch.
Yeah. Okay. So that was, and all you need to do is spend, say, 5 minutes with Frank Solich, and you said to yourself, "Wow, this is an impressive man." He was, he exuded class. I mean, class came out of him. You talked to him for 5 minutes, and boom, you walked away saying, "Wow." That's a pretty impressive man. So
there's no doubt about it.
Yep.
There's no doubt about it. He'd come in there with that black Nebraska bomber jacket on.
Yeah.
He'd flash a smile and just get to talking, and before you knew it, you're eating out of his hand.
Right. And that handshake, boy, was that impressive. That was. He'd shake your hand. He'd take it up your arm. He was a very, 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 very strong, big-handed. But a warm, really, really good person, and I like dealing with Frank Solich, and I talked to him a lot when they were recruiting you, so that was, I think I had the chance to stand next to him when one of the games that he was there to come and see you play, and I spent the entire first half just sitting there, BSing with Frank Solich, and I'm saying to myself, okay, this is pretty impressive. Joe could go there. I give him my blessing if he wants to go there. Even though I'm a diehard Oklahoma fan since I was a little kid. I mean, I gave it the okay that if you wanted to go to Nebraska. And the other reason why Nebraska is that Roddy Mafia loved Tony Samuels, and everything about Nebraska in Roddy's mind was out of this world. And you get that, go to Cornhuskers, and Roddy, he was. If you listen to Roddy enough, you would thought that Nebraska was like Shangri-La, like it wasn't in Lincoln. It was like you thought it was like in Oahu, like that type of thing.
Yes, Moff was the best.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, he poured a lot into me as well towards the end. I mean, he had taught me so many things, and the importance of connections and develop great relationships with people, and people matter, and how you treat them will say much more about you than anything you say.
Yep.
Moff was, rest in heaven.
Yeah, he was on a direct, when the time came for the Lord to call Moff home. He was on an express train. He went right straight there. There was no stopping anywhere at all. It was just, not even to stop along the way to bring the file with him. He just kept going.
When he would come out to Nebraska, that's what I love about Mom. He knew I was a big salami and mousse guy.
Yep.
Big. And he'd come out and bring those cold cuts and the bread, and for 3 days straight, man, we had salami and mousse sandwiches, and he would just tell stories about Richie Glover, Tony Sand. He just tell all these crazy, crazy stories over the years.
Yep.
About the Nebraska greats that were from New Jersey.
And there were a lot. There was a great pipeline, but the reason for that, although Tony Samuel had a lot to do with it, Frank Solich was an incredible recruiter, and he had his finger on the pulse of New Jersey better than any other human being. Every time you turn around, there was Frank Solich, and you say to yourself, does he coach at Jersey City State or is he coaching Nebraska? I mean, he was all over the place. So,
yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. So
a lot of greats came from Frank recruiting those guys out of Jersey. Jersey and South Jersey.
And South Jersey too, of course. So all right. So so in that respect, then there was so. But the idea we got off the beaten path a little bit. The idea that you were getting all of that attention from all those schools from all across the country, and that must have been incredible, right? And did Hanson do a good job of weeding that out a little bit for you there, Joe? Did he, did he say, okay, here's this coach, here's that coach, I guess he left the decision up to you. But did he do a good job of weeding that out and weeding out the ones that you shouldn't be talking to and the ones that you should talk to?
Yeah, certainly. I remember him just having me, the other guys that we recruited at the time, write down a list of things that were, very, very important to you. What are the priorities, and what do you want to get achieved in your collegiate career? And then you evaluate all the schools that you're looking at according to that list. And heck, I had things on that list that didn't really matter. So he'd look at my list and like, all right, Joe, this, and this doesn't pertain to anything that we got going on here. But
Okay.
here's some things that you should be looking at. You probably should add this to your list, or at least think about it. And man, he was spot on. And schools that I wound up looking at and visiting were all in that same wheelhouse. They were spread or moving towards that spread but option football team.
Okay.
That allowed the quarterback to be a threat in the game. And there was going to be some character compatibility. Like where I was going, it was going to be a lot of similar athletes with similar temperaments and mindsets, and they were going to have the academic support and the social support needed for me to be successful.
Okay. All right. Well, we will be back with the second half of our conversation with the great Joe Dailey after this word from Stan's Sports Center. And Stan's Sports Center is your local full-service sporting goods vendor and authorized team dealer. They offer quality products and dozens of brands to outfit your team top to bottom. Stan's has proudly been supporting the local community since 1946 and is your one-stop shop for uniforms, equipment, online team stores, and so much more. Locations in Hoboken and Saddlebrook and servicing the entire tri-state area. Visit them on the web at Stan's Plural, Sports Plural, CTR.com. Repeating that again is Stan's Plural, Sports Plural, CTR.com. And check them out on social media for their latest creations. That's Stan's Sports Center, located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken. Telephone number there is 201-798-4466. And if you go to Stan's and you mention the Hudson County Sports Podcast, and you said that you listened to the chat that I had with Joe Dailey, and you go and say hello to the great people down at Stan's like Danny and Lou and Todd and those just incredible people down at Stan's, and you tell them that you listen to the Hudson County Sports Podcast, they'll give you a 10% discount on anything that's retail in the store. So, and they got a lot of good stuff that's in the store. So make sure that you mention the Hudson County Sports Podcast when you go to Stan's and say you listen to the podcast with Joe Dailey, and we will be glad to give you the 10% discount. Well, I won't be giving. I'm not giving any discounts, but Stan's will give the 10% discount on behalf of Joe Dailey and the Hudson County Sports Podcast. So thanks to my great sponsor, the people at Stan's. They do a great job, and they're very, very influential to all the athletes in Hudson County, and I appreciate them being the corporate sponsor of the Hudson County Sports Podcast. Okay, we're now back with our next part of our chat with St. Peter's Prep former quarterback and who went on to have a great college career, both at Nebraska and North Carolina, and he's now currently still the quarterback's coach at Boston College, and it's my friend Joe Dailey. And Joe, talk a little bit about, was there one thing that stood out in your mind that made you pick Nebraska?
Just the championship culture. Everything that they did there in Nebraska was about winning championships. From strength conditioning to nutrition to their academics. I mean, they had like 130-something academic All-Americans at that time that had come through their program. So if there was anything that, Nebraska stood for was winning championships, building champions. And so if you just go back and look at that time in history, they did it better than a lot of people.
Sure. It's one of the most influential college football programs in the history of the sport. I mean, there's no question. You go back to, the 50s, 60s, 70s. That's Bob Devaney, and then moving forward to Tom Osborne and Frank Solich, and just you mentioned Turner Gill. I mean, Heisman Trophy winners. You mentioned two, Eric Crouch and Mike Rozier, and Johnny Rodgers on that great team in 1971. There were a lot of great football players that come out of Nebraska. So I think they probably made that job easy for you to select Nebraska, especially if you had Nebraska in the on the spectrum in your wheelhouse, so to speak, before the recruiting process started. So if you were a follower of Nebraska and then all of a sudden they backed it up, it must have made the job of picking Nebraska a hell of a lot easier. Or am I wrong? Was it hard to do?
Yeah, it was an easy decision after having gone out and visited the institution and met with all the people that were going to have an impact on my life there. It was tough, really, just decommitting from Syracuse, just because I had such a great relationship with the coaching staff there and some of the players. But that decision was made on one that I thought was best for me at the time. Probably leaving New Jersey to go to Nebraska initially was probably a little bit more difficult than I thought it was, because here I am leaving the East Coast and going out to the middle of the country,
right?
Not knowing a soul, and jumping right on in and trying to get acclimated and caught up and fight for a starting position was going to be a challenge.
Right. Joe, was it a lot of pressure on the fact that you were so heavily coveted from all the teams in the country? I mean, you were a high school All-American. You were on everybody's radar. Everybody wanted Joe Dailey, and you were one of the most coveted players in the entire country. So when you got there, and now you're going to Nebraska, where out there the athletes walk on water, and it's usually a stepping stone right to the NFL. So was there a lot of pressure at all on you being the quarterback coming in and having those high expectations right away?
Yeah, certainly. Their starting quarterback at the time was another Hudson County quarterback, Jamal Lord from Bayonne.
Oh, wow. Okay, sure.
And he was his fifth year in college, he was a senior, and so they wanted me to push him for a starting role. And he had 4 years of training, 5 years of training for that position, and I had very little training in that offense prior to me getting there, so I had to bridge the gap from where I was to where I needed to be in a short period of time.
All right, and were they running a spread too at that time too, or were they?
Yeah, they were kind of transitioning where they were still doing traditional option, but they kind of jumped in the shotgun a little bit. Did a couple new run schemes, zone read, a little bit of quarterback counter, quarterback power. So they were kind of transitioning into that.
Okay.
And they saw that I had the ability to throw the football in addition to being an athlete. And they were like, this is the young man that we need that can take us to that next stage of our offense.
And you could throw the ball a hell of a lot better than Jamal Lord could. That's for damn sure. You even though he was 5 years older than you, you could throw it better than him when you were 18 years old and he was 23. I mean, there's no question you were going to throw it. Right?
Yeah, I was trained to throw that thing. I like to say I was a passer.
Yep.
Just because Coach Hansen, he was my only quarterback coach I ever had until I got to college. To be honest with you. So, he had developed me and kind of taught me how to play the position. It was just unique as you go from high school to college, and the difference, besides everyone being bigger, faster, and stronger, is just more details. There's more value.
Yep.
And you got to have recall, and you got to have the ability ability to change protections and adjust plays, and didn't have to do a lot of that in high school. But all of a sudden, you go from doing very little of that to that is everything that you do. It can become overwhelming. It really can be. But nothing like practicing and drilling and rehearsing and just spending as much time as you can in your playbook and film study to prepare you for that, to get you closer to where you needed to be. And that's what I did my entire freshman and sophomore year there, was just really buried myself into all of it. Didn't necessarily have all the success that I wanted to have, but it wasn't because there was a lack of preparation.
Yeah, but you had some incredible success. As I don't know if it was your freshman or your sophomore year. I'm trying to think, but national television, the only game in town where you played Colorado. Colorado had just won the national championship right prior, and it's on the day after Thanksgiving, 11 o'clock in the morning. Probably the game was kickoff at probably 10 o'clock in the morning back out there, and but you had probably, you could correct me if I'm wrong, your best college game, at least at Nebraska, was on that day when you beat Colorado, on that day after Thanksgiving. I'm guessing, what, 2008? No, 2005, 2006, one of those 2 years, where you had an incredible day on the day after Thanksgiving playing against Colorado. And so you had success right away, and it was success that they had never seen from a passing quarterback in Nebraska. That was almost unheard of, because they were a wishbone forever and ever and ever, and they were basically a run first and pass tomorrow type of quarterback. So you really opened up a lot of eyes doing what you did your freshman and sophomore year there. Am I wrong?
Yeah, my freshman year I played a lot. And then my sophomore year, when I took over as a starting quarterback and team captain, that was when we really started chucking the ball around.
So you were the team captain as a sophomore?
Yes.
Wow, that's pretty impressive there. Yeah.
Yes. So I was very fortunate early on to be put in a position to be a leader and had the capabilities of doing so. And we had some success that year transitioning from a real, option system to an NFL system. We had run really John Gruden's offense my second year, because they had hired Bill Callahan, who was his offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, to be our head coach.
Okay.
So I went from, one end of the spectrum to the other. Went from a run-heavy option system to a pass-heavy West Coast offensive system. And it was just amazing to go through that process, because now back-to-back years I'm here trying to learn a new offense and trying to get this thing going again. And it's never easy, the transition. But it was one of those situations where it had to be done. There was no other way for it to be. So I went from an option quarterback to a pro-style passing quarterback, in like 10 months.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think I think it was that game against Colorado. Maybe I'm wrong. You broke this.
It might have been Baylor. Baylor was the game that we threw for like 340, 50-something yards, and they haven't done that, I don't think, ever.
No, I'm saying that the game against Colorado was the first time ever that a Nebraska quarterback ever threw for 300 yards in a game. It was that game the day after Thanksgiving against Colorado on national television, the only game in town. If you wanted to watch football when you're having your Thanksgiving leftovers, you're having a little cold turkey sandwich and stuffing and cranberry sauce on some rye bread, which is now going to make me hungry. But you had an incredible day when you were the only game in town, and boy, oh boy, did that make Joe Dailey a national. Everybody knew who Joe Dailey was at that point. I knew who you were, obviously, but I mean that the rest of the world got to know who Joe Dailey was because of that performance. And I'll have to go look it up, but I'm pretty sure you not only did you break the single game passing record, but you were the first ever Nebraska quarterback to ever throw for 300 yards in a game.
Yeah, that might have been my sophomore year.
Yeah, am I right?
Like towards towards the end. Yeah, we had just lost. That's the same game. We had lost at the very end. That was a tough one. We chucked it around the yard.
Oh, you lost that game?
Yeah, we lost that game. The year prior, we won up there in Boulder.
Yeah, no, this was at home, so that must have been your sophomore game. Yeah, but you had a great game, though. They can't hold that against you. You had a great game. All right. So was that I mean something happened there that you had to you ended up transferring, but were you having fun playing quarterback at traditionally run heavy Cornhusker offense, and now you're throwing the ball across the field and having some great numbers and great games?
Oh yeah, I love my time in Nebraska. I love the people that I originally signed to play for and with. When they brought in a new regime, it was going to be some tough times just because the personnel that we had there at the time really wasn't quite suited for what they were trying to do offensively. And so there need to be some changes. They went and brought in a number of wideouts, a number of running backs. They kind of changed their recruiting for offensive line. Heck, they changed their recruiting quarterbacks. They didn't recruit athletic quarterbacks anymore.
Okay.
And so it was one of those situations where it broke my heart to leave Nebraska, but I knew that I was going to encounter tough times that really were uphill, and that no matter what, I probably wasn't going to be successful there. I think that they had their mind made up on the direction they wanted to go in with regards to the quarterbacks that they were going to play and recruit. And so I probably had no future there. And so much as I loved being there, I knew that if I wanted to have a great college career, then I'd probably have to seek out opportunities elsewhere.
Okay. All right. So then after 2 years in Nebraska, you ended up transferring to North Carolina, which was they were in the mix when they recruited you coming out of high school, but I don't know if they were high on the list coming out of high school. But what was it about North Carolina that made you want to transfer there from Nebraska?
There was some familiarity with some of the coaches on staff there. I knew a couple of players that were there. They were from Jersey. We all came out around the same time. And then offensive coordinator was Gary Tranquil, who had some. He had an option in passing, spread style offense history. So I signed on to go there with him, and he wound up retiring after a year. So I was kind of stuck in that same situation as I was before, with a new head coach or new position coach, new coordinator, and they brought in another NFL system. So I leave one place because we're a strictly NFL system to go to another that was more suited to my talent, and then they changed their offensive system to the same system I just come from.
Okay. All right. And you can't find a prettier place to go to school than Chapel Hill. I mean, that's a gorgeous campus, gorgeous area. The natural rivalry that, although North Carolina is football, has to play second fiddle to basketball and the Duke rivalry and what have you. But still, it must have been a great place to go to school, especially from a pretty standpoint, right?
Oh, certainly. It's a beautiful, beautiful campus. Phenomenal academics, top 25 public school. It had all the bells and whistles, great tradition, rich history, and it was located in a great area of the country.
Yep. And it was a little bit closer to home too, so that must have helped a little bit. If you needed to dash home, you could jump in the car and drive 10 hours and you'd be back home again, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's plenty of trips I had back home. I was thankful for that opportunity to be closer.
Yep, no question. Okay, now talk to me a little bit about things actually didn't go according to plan. There was also a coaching regime change in North Carolina. Correct me if I'm wrong. You also were in the middle of changing your major too. Did that happen, or am I confusing you?
I changed my major. It was a change in coach. There's so many things going on there. Towards the end of my career there. But I had known that I wanted to be a football coach, and so.
All right, so you knew already at that point, Joe, that playing in the NFL was not going to be an option.
Yeah, there were going to be the opportunities that I wanted. I would probably have to change positions. May have been like a wideout or a safety, just because there wasn't going to be enough snaps of me as a quarterback and a system that was suited to my talents for me to get a legit look at, playing at the highest level. But I knew that I loved football and I had such a passion for it and I wanted to constantly be around it, that I decided, hey, if I'm going to change positions, then this is going to be a phenomenal learning opportunity. I'm going to go learn how to play wideout. I even played a little bit of running back, so I got a chance to learn running back play, and this was all a great experience for me as I was going to transition into that next phase of my life as a college coach.
Okay. And at that point already, Joe, that you knew that you wanted to become a coach, that was part of the initial plan. That's what you're doing.
Oh yeah. I had the firsthand experience of seeing what a coach can do in your life, and Rich Hansen, was all the evidence that I needed to see in order for me to say that I want to be just like Rich Hansen. I want to be a football coach, and I want to be a leader of men, and I want to make positive impact on the lives of men and women on a daily basis, and I'm going to do so through the sport of football.
Okay. All right. So, was North Carolina a good place for you to go to school to become a coach down the road? I mean,
Oh
yeah.
Oh yeah. My time there, I had a number of coaches that actually coached in the league, and so the information that we were being fed as athletes there was coming directly from the NFL.
Okay.
Charlie Williams was my wide receivers coach. I had Frank Signetti Jr. as my quarterbacks coach, who spent a dozen years in the league. I had John Shue, who was an offensive coordinator in the league. John Bunning was a position coach in the league. Butch Davis was a head football coach in the league. I mean, there's so many coaches that had national football experience that were, educating us. So when I walked out of North Carolina, I was prepared for that next phase of my life as a young coach, because I was around some of the best content someone could be around.
Okay. All right. Now you leave, and you got your degree from Carolina, correct?
Yep, I left.
Right, and then you also got your master's from Carolina too, as well, if I remember. Am I right?
Well, I was fixing to start that, and then I got an opportunity to go to University at Buffalo to start my graduate assistant position.
Okay.
So I was in the midst of doing a master's at UNC, like you said, and then I got the opportunity to be a GA at Buffalo.
Oh, okay, that's how that happened. Okay, all right. And wasn't Turner Gill the head coach at Buffalo then?
Yes, Turner Gill was in his second year as the head football coach there. He was my position coach at Nebraska. So,
yep.
When I was, looking for opportunities, I said, "Hey, coach, if there's one that comes up with you guys, I love opportunities to interview for." And a couple months down the road, an opportunity came about, called me, interviewed me, and hired me, and the rest is history.
All right, and then that began the incredible sojourn that makes you bouncing around the country, looking to latch on as an assistant coach or possibly head coach around the country. And your first place you ended up going to, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it Kansas? Was that the first place you went to from Buffalo? You went to Kansas?
Yeah. I was a GA for about a year at University at Buffalo, and then Coach Gill promotes me to full-time assistant coach at 24 years old. I think I was probably the youngest assistant football coach in Division I football at the time.
Wow.
And then we have massive success there, and then we leave and we go to Kansas. And Turner hires me there as.
And no one has any success at Kansas. No one.
No, it's been really, really tough.
For everybody.
Yeah, it's been really tough for a lot of folks.
Right, but still, that couldn't have been a bad place to work, right?
No, it was a great environment, great academic institution. We had phenomenal facilities. You're just playing in a league in which you can have all that and some, but you need players.
Yeah.
And you know, you got to be able to develop those guys and recruit them and develop them because the big wigs in the Big 12, man, they're going to get the best of the best. You better have a real strategic plan on how to recruit kids that are capable of developing into being really good players, you know, in that conference.
Okay. Now, at that point, did you have an idea of what, like, say, what kind of a position coach did you want to be? Did you like the idea of being, say, a recruiting coordinator, which, you know, you had a good amount of experience in terms of recruiting kids? Did you like the idea of being able to, you know, to bounce around and be a recruiting coordinator and to also be a top flight assistant?
Yeah, I love the recruiting aspect of it. I learned a great deal of things that would later on help me, you know, recruit some really good players. But I knew that, hey, if I really wanted to be a college football coach at a high level, and if I wanted to be an offensive coordinator, then I had to recruit, or at least recruit certain areas of the country and have coached quarterbacks. And I didn't have any experience coaching quarterbacks, so I left my position there at Kansas as a recruiting coordinator to go and coach quarterbacks at a 1AA school in Florida called Bethune-Cookman.
Right, which was that's a historically that's a black college, correct? Bethune-Cookman, right? Okay. And was that a tough job to be able to go from being at a major Division I school to then go to a 1AA school like Bethune-Cookman, and there must have been almost like a culture shock a little bit, no?
I wouldn't say it was tough. I mean, you know, having to take a pay cut somewhat, and
somewhat. I would imagine you had to take a gigantic pay cut, huh?
Yeah, well, it wasn't as drastic as you would think, but you go from having all the bells and whistles to having just what you needed.
Yep.
And then, you know, it was always a trade-off. We were going from the middle of the country to the state of Florida. We're right there in Daytona Beach, Florida.
Well, that's not a bad place to work.
No, it's not a bad place at all.
No.
And I worked for a great head football coach, Brian Jenkins.
Okay.
And he was tough. He was demanding. And he was a gentleman that, you know, was going to push you to achieve, you know, what you're capable of achieving at a high level, you know. And so I enjoyed my time there with him for a year because I had learned a number of things. He was a phenomenal recruiter. He was genuine, and I got a chance to sit there and just watch him kind of, you know, work the room, you know. And he was a head coach that was like heavily involved in everything. And so to have witnessed that firsthand, him kind of orchestrate so many different things, hosting conversations and events and being able to work the room was phenomenal for my experience. Because later on, you know, down the line, a lot of things that, you know, that I was really good at, you know, just because I got a chance to watch people like him kind of go out and execute at a high level.
All right. So now you stayed 1 year at Kansas. Now, unfortunately, it's bouncing from one place to another. So you were, and again, Joe, I'm going off the top of my head. So you were at 1 year at Kansas, 1 year at Bethune-Cookman, and at that point, were you already married at that point? And did you have any children? Yeah, I guess you had to have children already at that point too, right?
Yeah, I was married my first year coaching as a GA, and then we were there for 2 years. Then we went to.
And your wife's name is Carrie?
Yeah, Carrie Beth.
Carrie Beth. Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right.
So
and God bless her for being able to put up with you. Right? I said God bless her for being able to put up with you. So now, you're married, and now your wife is you're bouncing from Kansas to Florida to you're at Buffalo. I mean, you're going all over the place. And did you have any children already at that point, or you know?
Yeah, when we moved to Bethune-Cookman down there in Florida, we already had our oldest daughter, and then we were fixing to have our second child, Noah.
Okay.
Hanson, down there that summer.
Oh wow! All right, so that must have been a little bit of a tough go there for a while. That you're going from school to school, right? And
oh yeah.
But did you see that the forest?
We really Liberty University of Virginia with Turner Gill.
Well, that must have been a great place to work, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I can't say any place that I was at that time wasn't a great opportunity. I really enjoyed all those stops that I had.
Okay.
Working for Turner Gill again at Liberty as quarterbacks coach. Later on, he named me as offensive coordinator. It was a phenomenal experience.
All right. Did you like that? Now you're finally getting a little bit of a responsibility upgrade in the fact that you became the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, that was, the whole goal was to ascend to the position of quarterback coach, offensive coordinator. So every day, when I went into work and, all my professional development was in pursuit and hope of becoming the coordinator.
Okay.
And once I got that opportunity, I made the most of it and was so thankful for that. Just because, you spend so much time, you put so much effort and energy into honing your skills that you may not always get an opportunity to be put in that position that you want to. And so when you do invest in yourself and you're developing your growth and you do get put in that position, you're just so thankful, so appreciative that all the things that you knew if you would follow through on would pay off.
Okay. All right. So now you're at Liberty, and now finally you get to be at a place where you stay for a little bit more than 9 months, right? I mean, you got a little bit of, I won't say job security, but you stayed at Liberty for, I'm guessing, 3 years, 4 years. How many years were you at Liberty?
Man, I had 7 years.
7 years. See, I'm losing. Yeah. See, no wonder why I lost touch with you with all those years. So
yeah, those 7 years were awesome. They were amazing. I had my last 2 children there in Virginia, there in Lynchburg, and made so much growth. I mean, just being, on that campus at a great institution like Liberty, where there's a whole person development focus, where they want you to become the best version of yourself, spiritually, socially, athletically, and academically. And so there was just this emphasis to help people, grow into the humans that they want to be.
Okay. And the football that gets lost in the shuffle a little bit, but the football in that conference, and is that the Middle American Conference? Is that what you were playing in?
No, that was at the time we were FCS 1AA school.
Okay.
And we were playing at Big South Conference, and in the last 2 years we transitioned from 1AA to FBS.
Oh wow! Okay.
And so we had a lot of success those last 2 years, transitioning from a 1AA roster to a 1A roster, and we knocked down a number of teams that on paper people would say, Liberty shouldn't have a chance.
That's true, and it was only on those early games that you would play early in the schedule that teams thought they were getting a little bit of a walkover, and that Liberty was probably getting a nice guarantee to go play those games, and then lo and behold, boom, they realized they were in some wars. And there were a couple of years that you had some big upset wins, correct?
Oh yeah, we beat Baylor first game of the year.
Wow.
Those guys. We had just beaten ODU after coming from their. I think they played in the Bahamas Bowl. I think they were like runner-up in their conference that year. We knocked off Troy when they were their conference champion that year. They had just beat Nebraska earlier in that year.
Oh wow! Okay.
Oh yeah, and we beat them. So during our tenure there at Liberty, especially the last 2 years, we knocked off some big name teams that most people didn't expect us to even be, on a playing field with.
And you helped to put Liberty on the map instead of just being Jerry Falwell University. You actually were proving yourselves to be a damn good football program, correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We landed on the map officially after knocking off a lot of those teams.
No question. And then you got promoted to being you were the OC at Liberty, weren't you?
Yeah, the last 3 years, I was the offensive coordinator there.
Okay.
16, 17, and 18.
Wow. All right. So 3 years of being an OC. So all right. So Joe, correct me if I'm wrong. At that point now, you got to start thinking. All right, I'm getting a little older, and maybe I need to get a chance to be a head coach. Were you thinking in that direction? Were you thinking like, say, oh, I hope that somebody could hire me as being a head coach? And did you get any major interviews? Were you in the process, in the thought process of being a head coach someplace?
Yeah, certainly. I wanted to be a head football coach. I felt like I learned a great deal of football in addition to all the things that kind of go along with being head football coach that are non-football related pertaining to the academic aspect of it, the community outreach, the donor and booster relations, just a number of different things, besides the X's and O's, I kind of got exposed to when I was at Liberty, and then I wanted to make that, that next step, the next jump, if the opportunity, would present itself. And I was fortunate. I had a number of different interviews to be.
Oh, you did? Okay, good.
Certain institutions, but the guys that wound up getting it were guys that were, former head football coaches that had great resumes. So there was no, no skin off my back. Just had the opportunity to interview at some of these places was big time.
Okay. Were there any schools, Joe, that you came really, really close to that you said, boy, I'm really close to becoming a head coach? Was there a couple times that you thought you had a good shot?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was definitely a couple of them.
But it had to be to uproot a family with 4 kids, and at that point, there must have been, your oldest must have been about 7, your youngest must have been, I don't know, an infant. It must have been really hard. It had to be a perfect situation for you to uproot carrying the kids and go someplace else, correct?
Oh yeah. And the crazy part about it is as a football coach, you only guaranteed that next semester that you have.
Right.
To have the fortune of being there for 7 years and then having to leave. After 7 years is just part of the trade. From Liberty, we wound up going to New Mexico for a year.
Oh, you did? Oh, you went to New Mexico as an assistant coach?
I was the offensive coordinator, quarterback coach there. Yes, for Bob Davie.
Oh my gosh! Oh, what a turn of events that is.
Having to work for Bob Davie was an awesome experience.
Okay.
He's had a number of big time coaches.
And wasn't Tony Samuel there too?
No, his last stop was at Southeast Missouri State.
Oh, okay.
Tony was the head coach there back in New Mexico State.
Oh, New Mexico State. Oh, okay. All right.
He was in Las Cruces, and I was in Albuquerque.
Okay. And then, and Richie Glover Jr. was also an assistant coach there for a while. I don't know if he was a GA or what have you, but he was at New Mexico State, right?
Yeah.
And you were at New Mexico with Bob Davie. Boy, that's you want to talk about how the circle is really wild. When I was also at that, when he was the assistant, he was the head coach at Notre Dame. Wow. Okay. And I wrote a column for the Hudson Reporter about their recruiting of Anthony Jordan and how Notre Dame offered Anthony Jordan a scholarship and then pulled it back. And I wrote a column saying, call them Notre Shame. And how I thought that, how in the world can you give a kid a scholarship and then take it away from him? And lo and behold, I get a phone call now mind you too, I think Bob Davie was a little worried that I was writing this column for the Star Ledger and not the Hudson Reporter. If he knew it was just for the Hudson Reporter, I would have never probably got the phone cut number. But considering the fact that he thought I was writing it for the number 1 newspaper in the state, he was a little concerned that was going to hurt his recruiting. So he had one of his assistant coaches call me at the office of the Hudson of the Ledger and had him call me and to talk to me about, please don't write the story about call them Notre Shame. And that assistant coach was Urban Meyer. And it was all about the recruiting of AJ and what they did with AJ is taking the scholarship away from him, which it turned out to be a blessing because he ended up going to Michigan and he had a great career and he's doing pretty well, but still, I was not happy with the way Notre Dame handled that recruiting. So it's a small world. The college circle of coaches, you would think it's such a vast, wide circle of coaches, But when you think about it, here it is. You know, his recruiting of Anthony Jordan from St. Peter's Prep led to him making a phone call, and lo and behold, you were, a St. Peter's Prep guy yourself. So it's just a wild, wide world. So, all right. So you were at Notre Dame. I mean, it's Notre Dame. Pardon that one. So you were at New Mexico for 1 year.
For 1 year.
All right, and that must have been again culture shock, going from, say, a great stable place where you were for 7 years to then go to New Mexico. And you were there for 1 year. And how tough was that? Again, uprooting the family, 4 kids, and going to another school. And how tough was that on carrying yourself and the family, uprooting the family and moving to Albuquerque?
Yeah, that was tough, just because we were so ingrained in that area of Virginia. Developed so many great relationships over those 7 years. When we knew at some point, our time was going to come, we were going to have to leave. And so it was a culture shock, because we were in a super conservative area, and then all of a sudden, we're in the opposite of that in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Right.
So kids are just exposed to something totally different than they had been accustomed to. It took some time to adjust.
Yeah, and then it'd be like one day it'd be 83 degrees at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and by 7 o'clock it was 38. And like the temperature changes and the culture, and it must have been really tough. That's also not the most I don't say open-minded area of the country either. So
It was a unique place. It was a very unique place.
Right.
Thankful, appreciative of having the opportunity to have gone there and work for Bob Davie, and I had a chance to live in the city there and learn so much about the culture of New Mexico. And thankful to be gone now up here at Boston.
Yeah, no. All right. So how did that come about? How did you go from getting the chance to go from New Mexico to going to become with that great coaching staff at Boston College?
Yeah, so the head football coach here, Jeff Hafley, and I, we've known each other since we were both young assistant coaches in the game. I think he was at Pitt and Rutgers when I was at Buffalo.
Yep.
In Kansas, so I would run into him on the recruiting trails in New Jersey, northern New Jersey there, and we just stayed in contact with each other, and we followed each other's careers. And then when he had gotten this job, he had reached out to me, asked me if I wanted to be part of the staff, and I was like, yeah, I'd love to work for you. And the cool part about it was the guy that he hired as the offensive coordinator was my position coach and offensive coordinator at North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
Maybe junior.
Okay.
So here's a guy that I played for, that I'm coaching underneath, and here's a guy that I used to recruit against that I'm coaching, for now. So it was just, it was an awesome opportunity to get a chance to work alongside 2 great people.
All right, so before we get in to talk a little bit about your association with Boston College, we've got to get one more plug in, and to talk about our great sponsors from Stan Sports Center. Stan Sports Center is your local full-service sporting goods vendor and authorized team dealer. They offer quality products and dozens of brands to outfit your team top to bottom. Stan's has proudly been supporting the local community since 1946 and is your one-stop shop for uniforms, equipment, online team stores, and so much more. Locations in Hoboken and Saddlebrook and servicing the entire tri-state area. Visit them on the web at Stans Plural Sports Plural CTR.com. Again, Stans Plural Sports Plural CTR.com, and check them out on social media for their latest creations. That's Stan Sports Center, located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken. Telephone number there, 201-798-4466. And if you go down to Stan's and you mention the Hudson County Sports Podcast with the guys down there, my good friends Danny and Todd and Louie, and you mention the Hudson County Sports Podcast, they'll give you 10% off on anything retail that's in the store. 10% off is not a bad deal, and it's thanks to my wonderful sponsors at Stan Sports Center. Again, 528 Washington Street in Hoboken. Telephone number 201-798-4466. Okay, we're going to be closing up with my good friend Joe Dailey. And Joe, talk a little bit about Boston College, and obviously it's a program that you were very familiar with, obviously growing up as a kid, because everybody that goes to St. Peter's Prep and everybody that's in New Jersey, everybody's all familiar with Boston College. And how excited were you for be able to take your family and to move to Chestnut Hill?
Oh yeah, I was fired up to get a chance to come back to the Northeast. Heck, to live in New England. And then the area that, Boston College is at is phenomenal for academics. I mean, this entire state is known for academics, but where we're at specifically, I mean, it's the best of the best. So,
sure.
My family in this area of the country and some of the best academics in the country has been amazing. And then actually working at an institution that is very, very, similar. It's a Catholic Jesuit institution. So, run by the Jesuits. So everything that we do here is, I mean, really, it's similar to everything we did at St. Peter's.
Okay.
And here, it's all about men and women for others, about developing your talents, your skill sets, and then going out and impacting tomorrow's world. And we have that opportunity to do that here every single day with our opportunity to coach these young men in the game of football. So Boston College has been, nothing but a blessing, just because it's really like being like at home.
Okay.
Truly.
All right. Now, what has it been like? Unfortunately, now you get to go to Boston College. It's a great institution, especially academically, and a great location. It's just a great place for kids to go to school and get that kind of experience educationally and athletically, and it's just a great place. All right. But bang, you get the job and you go to Boston College, and all of a sudden the world changes as we know it, and the pandemic hits. And how difficult was that to be coaching or trying to coach through the pandemic and not getting a chance to do what you do best, which is hitting the recruiting trail and going to selling your school to other kids?
Yeah, it was very difficult because we were only there for about a month and a half before we had shut it all down. So we had just finished recruiting, and then we were jumping into spring football. We only got about 5 practices in, and then, COVID pandemic hit, and we had to shut everything down. So we couldn't develop relationships amongst the coaches because we didn't have a lot of time with each other, and we couldn't develop the kind of relationships that you would develop in person with your own players, because everything had to go to virtual educating. So,
sure.
We tried to bridge the gap as much as we could through Zooms and whatnot. But it's really, really tough. And then for a lot of coaches' families who were moving into town here, they shut down schools. So there was no schooling going on for about a month or so. And then they went to this, the virtual school for these kids. And my kids are brand new, and they're trying to do this online learning with kids they've never even met in person. And that just was tough, And then we had to do all that on top of putting in a new offense, new defense, new special teams, building a culture, building a program, then recruiting a new class the following year. And we can't have any athletes on campus nor their folks. So you're literally in this weird position where you're trying to develop quality relationships, sell your institution and the relationships that you'll develop through the Zoom was not easy. Was not easy by any means, but we were able to do so successfully.
Okay.
It really worked.
All right, and more importantly too, then coming into this year, you then had to worry about whether or not the kids were able to keep that year of eligibility. So you didn't know how many kids you were able to, say, recruit at that position. You didn't know how many scholarships you're going to be able to give at different positions. It must have been a complete state of flux. And how really tough was that, Joe, to be able to know, okay, what kids are coming back, which ones are not, which ones are projected to graduate, which ones are going to stay on and pursue graduate degrees? I mean, it really must have been an upheaval, so to speak.
Yeah, there was a lot of maneuvering and there's a lot of questions, and then the NCAA finally came out with some legislature just allowing everybody to get a COVID year.
Yep.
to get an additional year. So the guys became like super seniors, and they kind of figured it out. And in the next couple of years, that'll kind of sort itself out to where everything kind of resumed normal activities. But there was just, a lot of questions for a long period of time on how we were going to manage scholarships and whatnot.
Okay. And then let's talk about this year, the 2021 season. You started off like gangbusters, and you won 4 games, and you had a nice win against Missouri, and you think things are going really well. And then you played Clemson to the hilt, where, boy, oh boy, here it is, it's Clemson. It's not just some run-of-the-mill program. It's the one that, they won 2 national championships in the last 4 years, and, just a top-flight program, and you had them on the ropes, and unfortunately you lost that game, and since then, you've lost 4 in a row. And how tough has that been to be so close, and yet so far, so to speak, with the exception of the only game that was a little lopsided was NC State, but all the rest of them were winnable football games. And
oh yeah, it's you know what, winning's hard. There's no doubt about that. So is losing.
Yeah.
It's hard as well. And the first half of the season, shows you, we were hot as fish grease. We had a starting quarterback in the ball.
I've never heard that term before, Joe. That is great. As hot as fish grease. Okay.
Oh yeah. And our starting quarterback got hurt. So
that's true. Yeah.
Our backup quarterback, and we try to build a system around him and try to get other people involved. And we just, we turned up short. We turned the ball over a couple times, and we didn't capitalize on big plays. We had our fair share of bad bounces of the ball, whether we dropped it or couldn't get to it. But all those games we were in, position to win. Even the NC State game got lopsided towards the end, but we were in it.
Okay.
Going into the fourth quarter. But football in college is really a tale of three different areas. You got the first 4, the second set of 4, and then the last set of 4. And so we're in November now. We got 4 left. We take on the Virginia Tech Hokies tomorrow night. We feel really, really good about our plan. Coach Hafley, man, there ain't a better guy in his business. He is resilient. He's relentless in his pursuit to get his football team ready to go. Our guys have fought their tail off every single week. They love coming to work every day.
Okay.
And I feel really, really good about where we're at as a program. And hey, man, we're this close. We are really this close from this thing just exploding and taking off in the right direction for us again.
Okay, and then you've got how many more regular season games do you have left? 3?
3 after tomorrow night.
Okay, and then and if you win, say 2 of the 3, although it's not an easy task, Wake Forest is having a very, very good season. Florida State is not having a great season, but you're playing them at home. But if you win, say, I don't know, 2 of the 3, you got a good chance of going to a bowl game. And is that before the season started, was that even a thought process of being able to go to a bowl game?
Oh yeah. The goal was to win the conference championship and then compete for bowl championships. That hasn't changed. We still have that within our sights, within our reach, and so everything is about going 1-0 this week, then 1-0 the following week.
Okay.
And so we take care of our business to finish up the season strong. Our goals of being in a bowl game and winning it are well within our reach.
Okay. And obviously, what a great boost that would be to be able to go to a bowl game in just your second year at Chestnut Hill. That would be an incredible feeling for you, right? And for your program. And never mind just Joe Dailey. It'd be great. It'd be great for the entire program.
Certainly. Yeah. Certainly. Last year during the COVID season, we finished 6-5. We had an opportunity to go to a bowl game, but our guys, our team decided that they wanted to decline the bowl and kind of just rest and recover and just regain some normalcy by getting back with their families. So it'd be great this year to finish out strong and have an opportunity to do that.
Okay. And you have some kids on your roster that we're familiar with in northern New Jersey, and you got a couple of kids that I know pretty well. You got the Palmer kid that's from DePaul, and you got another kid that's from Pope John. Danucci, who was a very, very good football player during his high school days. So I think all told, I think you've got 11 kids on your roster from New Jersey. So obviously you're doing a very good job in recruiting the kids from the area.
Oh yeah, we got a lot of Jersey kids. We got some more coming on this year. Hopefully we get those guys signed here in December. But Jersey's always been a stronghold for us for recruiting. Just because the kids are character compatible with the institution and what we're trying to get done here.
Okay. Joe, any of your wide receivers that are from New Jersey, and any of them that we would be familiar with that here in northern New Jersey? Oh, wait a minute, I see.
No, I don't have any kids from Jersey in my position group.
No, but you got Ben Petrula still there, isn't he?
Yeah, we got Big Play Ben here. He's our right tackle. He's done a phenomenal job this year.
Right, but he's a freehold boy like you, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. A lot of time, a lot of history between Ben and I.
Okay, good. All right. So all total, this is you can't ask for a better way of life right now that you got your family, and let's mention your four children. You got what? 2 boys, 2 girls?
No, I got one girl, Stella June. She's 12, and I got 3 boys. I got Noah Hansen, who's 10.
Noah Hansen. His middle name is named after Rich.
His middle name is Hansen, named after Big Rich.
He's certainly not named after the pop group, that's for sure, right? You're not gonna be saying an M-bop, anyway, time. All right, but that must have been a great thrill that you named the kid after Hansen. All right, so what are your other 3 children's names?
So it's Stella.
And
Noah,
she's 12.
Miles and Tyson. Yes.
Tyson, okay. And are the boys, or better yet, all 4 athletes? Any of them?
Oh yeah. They're well immersed in sports. Obviously, academics is a big deal at our house, so they understand that academics come first, and once you're done with that at home.
Well, that's another thing that they take after their mother.
Certainly.
Yeah, they take after their mother in looks, and they take after their mother when it comes to academics, because we all know that academics was not one of your brighter spots. Although I'm only busting, Joe. I know you were a good student, so.
No, there's a lot of truth to that. As much as I claim to love my academic career, which I really do, I think I had a pretty good one. Sports was always something that was the main driver in motivating me to even do the academic piece of it.
You had to have something that was going to keep you on the straight and narrow, that's for sure, right?
No question.
Okay.
No question.
All right, but all 4 boys. Okay, so we got Stella's the girl, she's 12, and then in order, and tell me their ages.
Yeah, so it's Stella, then it's Noah, Miles.
And how old is Noah?
Tyson. Noah's 10.
Okay.
Miles is 6, and Tyson is
2.
2.
Okay, boy, he must keep you on. Is he a terrible 2?
No, but he's an aggressive, assertive, physical. I mean, he always wants to fight, man. He's a competitive little thing.
Okay. So maybe he's the one that you should have named Hansen.
Yeah, he might be the linebacker. He
Yeah.
might be an MMA fighter.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You know what? I forgot to. We passed over it real quickly. And how much do you think that maybe it's helped you as a coach in the fact that your senior year at North Carolina, you had a position change, and you went from being a quarterback, which you were, and gained all your your career accolades and what have you as a quarterback, and then they turned you into like a jack of all trades, where you played wide receiver and running back and more wide receiver than anything. And was that emotionally tough for you to do, or did that make you just a better human being in terms of, okay, this is a little bit of adversity, and I've got to see if I can be able to handle it. So talk a little bit about that real quick, about having to go through a position change.
Yeah, I think I was pretty well grounded. I think the environment I was raised in, and then having the phenomenal people, supporting cast, kind of educate me on how to navigate the world, specifically with sports. Coach Hansen and my coaches kind of prepared me for that moment when you got to make a change, and there's going to be some adversity. There's going to be some identity adjustment, and you got to be able to roll with those changes and adapt, adjust, and overcome as much adversity as you can as soon as possible if you really want to have success. And so to make that transition from quarterback to receiver and all those other positions I played, it was probably a little easier than I anticipated, but I knew that if I did so successfully, it was going to lead to better things down the line for me.
Okay.
And I just embraced that change because I knew that getting educated to play the receiver position or play the position of running back was going to help me further my cause as a coach because I had some familiarity with playing those positions. So now when I go to instruct a young man on kind of the thought processes that go into playing the position, I have personal experience of doing so.
Beautiful. Okay. All right. So now to sum it all up, I'll go first to sum it all up. We glossed over it a little bit, but we really didn't give her the true credit that she deserves, and that's your wife, Carrie, and how great of a life partner has she been for you, and obviously blessing you with 4 children, and hopefully that's the end. There's no more children in the box, right? Is that about it?
Yeah, we're done.
You're done. Good. All right, stick a fork in it.
Children, but definitely been blessed to have Carrie Beth come into my life. Tell people all the time is like.
She's Carrie Beth. 2 words.
Well, her first name's Carrie. We just call her Carrie Beth.
Okay. All right. So go ahead. I'm sorry. And
but she was instrumental in me just being able to adapt to all the craziness that goes on with being a college athlete and then going to collegiate coaching.
Okay.
She's been an asset in so many ways, but she was one of the first people as an adult that really genuinely cared about seeing me become the best version of myself.
Wow.
Saw me as a potential husband and father for children and supported me in so many ways. And I can't say enough about who she is and what she does for our family, and I'm just thankful and appreciative that God put her in my life and in our lives. She's amazing.
All right. God bless. And where is she from originally, Joe?
She's a Nebraska gal.
All right. What town in Nebraska is she from?
She's from Sutton, Nebraska.
Sutton, Nebraska. Okay, that's about as foreign for me as possible. I know Nebraska pretty well, but I don't know where Sutton is. Where is it? Is it close to Omaha? Where is it?
It's kind of south central. It's in Clay County. You wouldn't know about that, but it's not too far. I think it's about 20-something miles from Hastings, Nebraska.
Okay, I know Hastings. Yeah.
If you've heard of Hastings, it's because that's where Kool-Aid was invented.
Oh, see? I knew it. You know what, Joe? Ever since I've done this podcast, and it's now 2 years, I learned something new every single time I do one of these podcasts, and now I know that Kool-Aid's home is Hastings, Nebraska, and I will remember that from now until the end of time. That and the fact that you've also played wide receiver in college, which I did not know. So, but other than that, Hastings, Nebraska, the home of Kool-Aid. I'm very, very impressed with that. So, I learn something new every single time I do one of these podcasts. So, all right. So, all in all, Joe, your life, you've got a family, you got a great family, good-looking kids. Thank God, they're all healthy, and you're doing pretty well in your career. In a career that you chose, that you wanted to do, and it's all having to do with sports. And how blessed are you to say that you've had a wonderful career now that's spanning now 20 some odd years as being no longer than that in terms of being an athlete and then being a coach. I mean, how great of a life have you been able to have through your association with sports?
So certainly, I've been blessed in so many ways, and so thankful for the opportunity to have the capability to play sports, and now get a chance to, be an instructor and a mentor for men that were just like me.
Yeah. Okay. The last thing I'm going to say it, and you probably have heard this before, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. Okay. Has anybody ever told you how much incredibly you sound just like Barack Obama? And has anybody ever said that to you at all, or am I the first?
Oh yeah, no, I've heard that plenty of times. And then the other one I get is, man, you look just like Pitbull, man.
Oh no! You don't look like Pitbull. You know who looks like Pitbull? And you may—I don't know if you know him personally, but Darren Savino is the drop-dead doppelganger for Pitbull. Drop-dead Pitbull. But no, you don't look like no Pitbull, man. You look like Joe Dailey.
There you go.
Yeah, and I made Pitbull, instead of sounding Hispanic just then, I made him sound like he was an Italian from Hoboken. That's exactly what I made him do. So, Joe, this was an absolute joy for me to get a chance to recapture you again, and to have you here as a guest on the podcast. And I can't thank you enough for spending the hour and plus to talk to me about your career and about your life. And I hope it's not another 14 years or whatever it's been since the next time I talked to you. It can't be that long, but I mean, it seems like it's been forever. And when there was a time in our lives when we go a week without talking to each other. I don't know if that would have been a long time. So, but I appreciate you so much, and I'm so very, very glad that you're doing really well and coaching at a place like BC and with 4 wonderful kids, and you're taking the bull by the horns, brother, and you're doing a real good job, and you make us all very, very proud every single day. And it's all being about men for others and being, having the pride and the glory, and that's something that that I have my every day of my life, and I know you probably have the same way. That our association with that wonderful place at Grandin Warren is a blessing, and you can't thank you enough for taking the time and sharing your stories with me today. So,
thanks, Jim. You're the best, man. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and join you. You've been phenomenal in everything you do, and are always generous and gracious towards me, man. So I'm just thankful for the opportunity to visit with you again.
Thanks so very much, Joe. We will definitely keep in touch, and if you're gonna get a kid to put his name to a letter of intent that's coming up to Chestnut Hill, please reach out. Feel free. You now got my phone number. Give me a call. I'd be glad to talk. So.
Sounds good, Jim. Great talking to you. Take care.
All right, you too, Joe. And best to your family, and God bless. And go Eagles.
No doubt.
All right, pal. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
And that was my special guest today, is the incomparable Joe Dailey, who had a great career as a St. Peter's Prep quarterback and then went on to play at Nebraska and then later on at North Carolina, and he's now the quarterbacks coach and assistant coach at Boston College in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts. Thank you very much for listening to today's Hudson County Sports Podcast. With a special thanks to my executive producer, Johnny Haig, my great nephew, who without him, I wouldn't be able to be doing this for almost exactly 2 years. And it's 2 years almost to the day that we opened up the podcast series with Coach Bob Hurley, and we're still going strong. So thanks so very much for listening today, and we'll have another guest next week. And thanks for listening, and have a pleasant day.